Kale's shuttle pierced through the violet clouds of Zythera's atmosphere, leaving a streak of silver across the sky. The planet below was unlike anything humans had seen before. Towering spires floated above crystal rivers, and forests shimmered with a soft, luminous glow. The air hummed with life, and even from space, Kale could feel a strange energy vibrating across the planet. He adjusted his visor, scanning the landscape. This mission was supposed to be a simple diplomatic journey, but the beauty of Zythera made him forget everything else. He had been chosen not for his political skill, but for his courage and level-headedness in dangerous situations. Humanity had been exploring the stars for decades, but few humans had set foot on Zythera. The planet had a reputation for being mysterious and untouchable. Kale had heard stories of explorers who had returned with nothing but strange tales and cryptic warnings. He took a deep breath and reminded himself that he was not just a soldier. He was an ambassador. When his shuttle touched down on the polished landing platform, Kale felt the ground beneath him hum. The platform was made of a material he had never seen before, light yet unbreakably strong. He stepped out cautiously. The air was thicker than Earth's, carrying a faint scent of minerals and flowers, but it was breathable. His suit filtered and adjusted for him, but the sensation of living air still surprised him. From the edge of the platform, a figure appeared. Kale froze for a moment, caught off guard by the being's presence. She was tall, taller than any human he had ever met, with skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid silver. Her eyes were large, luminous, and deep purple, reflecting the strange sky above. She wore flowing robes that floated around her in the breeze, though there seemed to be no wind. "You are Kale of Earth," she said in a voice that was soft but carried across the platform like a gentle song. "We have been expecting you." Kale bowed slightly, feeling both awe and the weight of responsibility. "Yes, I am Kale," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I come in peace, representing humanity." The being inclined her head gracefully. "I am Lyra, daughter of Zythera's council." "Welcome." There was a pause as Kale took in her form. She was not threatening, yet there was an unmistakable aura of authority and intelligence surrounding her. He felt the weight of being judged by someone far more advanced than him, but he held his gaze firmly, knowing that confidence was as important as honesty in these situations. Before either could speak further, a loud screech echoed from the skies above the floating cities. Kale instinctively reached for his weapon, but Lyra raised her hand. In an instant, the sound of the approaching threat became clearer. A massive creature, winged like a dragon but with scales that glinted in multiple colors, descended upon the city. Its claws raked across the surface of the buildings, sending structures and citizens into panic. Kale didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the edge of the platform and activated his shuttle's defensive systems. Energy shields popped up around the city's critical points, but the creature was far stronger and faster than anything the shuttle could handle alone. Lyra, meanwhile, moved with grace and precision, her hands glowing as if they controlled the air itself. She raised a barrier that slowed the creature's descent, giving Kale the moment he needed. With coordinated effort, Kale and Lyra managed to divert the creature away from the citizens. Kale marveled at her abilities. The energy she wielded seemed natural, almost like breathing. Together, they forced the creature toward an uninhabited area, where Kale used a combination of human technology and quick thinking to trap it in a containment field. When the threat was finally neutralized, the city's citizens emerged cautiously, looking at the human and the alien princess with awe. Kale lowered his weapon, feeling adrenaline still rushing through him. He had come to Zythera expecting diplomacy and curiosity, not a battle within his first hour. Lyra approached him, her eyes reflecting both concern and admiration. "You are brave, Kale of Earth," she said softly. "You acted not for glory, but for the safety of others. That is a rare quality." Kale nodded, feeling a flush of modest pride. "I only did what any human would do in your place. We came to learn, not harm. And it seems we have more to learn than I expected." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then you shall have many lessons, Kale. Many lessons about our world, and perhaps about yourself." Over the following days, Kale was introduced to the floating city. He marveled at the architecture, which defied gravity and logic, yet felt perfectly balanced. Bridges curved through the air like ribbons, connecting towers with no visible support. Gardens floated mid-air, and luminous streams ran through the city, glowing softly under the violet sky. Humans would have called it impossible. But here, it existed naturally. Kale observed the Zitharians closely. They moved with precision and calmness, communicating with subtle gestures and melodic sounds. Despite their advanced technology and superior physical abilities, they treated Kale with respect. It was a lesson in humility, seeing a civilization so advanced, yet so thoughtful. Lyra often visited him, showing him parts of the city that were otherwise forbidden to outsiders. She shared stories of Zythera's history, explaining how their people had thrived for thousands of cycles, learning to live in harmony with their planet. Kale listened, fascinated. He realized that humanity still had much to learn, not just about technology, but about balance, respect, and wisdom. One evening, while walking through a glowing forest on the outskirts of the city, Kale and Lyra talked about the differences between their worlds. He told her stories of Earth, its oceans, mountains, and cities. She laughed at his descriptions of human chaos and imperfection, but her eyes showed curiosity rather than disdain. "And yet," she said softly, "you humans are fearless. You challenge what seems impossible. That courage, it is admirable, though it can also be reckless." Kale smiled. "Maybe it's not just courage. Maybe it's hope. We hope for more than we can achieve. And sometimes that hope drives us to do impossible things." Lyra considered this. "Perhaps that is why you survived the creature's attack. Not just skill, but hope. You believe in what is right, even when the outcome is uncertain." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Kale looked up as several small creatures, like glowing insects with sharp wings, descended on the forest. Lyra moved swiftly, her hands creating barriers that protected them, as Kale used a handheld device to gently repel the creatures. It was a test, Kale realized, but one done without malice, an opportunity to learn Zitharian methods of defense. After the creatures dispersed, Lyra nodded approvingly. "You are learning quickly, Kale. I am impressed by your adaptability. Few outsiders could handle such challenges without fear." Kale felt a strange connection growing between them. There was admiration on both sides, not just for power or skill, but for understanding. Despite the vast differences between human and Zitharian, they found common ground in bravery, curiosity, and respect for life. As the days passed, Kale continued to explore Zythera with Lyra. They visited ancient ruins, floating libraries, and shimmering lakes that reflected the twin moons above. Everywhere he went, he saw evidence of a civilization that valued knowledge, courage, and harmony. Yet, Lyra also subtly showed him the challenges her people faced: political factions, external threats, and the ever-present danger of misjudging outsiders. Kale understood that his mission was not only about diplomacy, but also about showing that humans could be trusted allies. He began to realize that respect was earned not through words, but through actions. Every small act of courage, every decision made to protect Zitharians and their world, would be judged. And he was determined to prove humanity's worth. One evening, as the twin moons reflected in the city's glowing canals, Kale and Lyra stood in silence. The air was calm, and the city seemed to hold its breath. Lyra turned to Kale, her expression thoughtful. "Kale, you are unlike any human I have encountered," she said softly. "Your heart, it is both strong and gentle. That is rare. Remember, Zythera watches all, and yet I choose to trust you." Kale nodded, humbled by her words. "I will not disappoint you, Lyra. Humanity has much to learn from your people, and I hope we can show you that we are worthy of your trust." Lyra smiled faintly, but there was a sparkle in her eyes that Kale could not read. Perhaps it was approval, perhaps curiosity, or perhaps something more. Either way, Kale knew that his time on Zythera would be unlike any mission he had ever undertaken. As night fell, the city shimmered under the violet sky, and Kale felt a mix of awe and anticipation. He was far from Earth, surrounded by beings of incredible power and intelligence. Yet he also felt something deeper, an unspoken bond forming between him and the princess who had welcomed him. A bond that might shape the future not just of humans, but of Zythera itself. And Kale knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. Kale had spent nearly a week in Zythera, and each day brought new wonders and challenges. The floating city that had first stunned him now felt alive in a way he could almost understand. The Zytherians moved with effortless grace, their energy blending perfectly with the hum of the city. Yet Kale could not forget the first battle he had fought here, nor the way Princess Lyra had moved beside him, almost like an extension of the planet itself. Lyra had invited him to accompany her on a journey outside the city to the Crystal Forest, a place where the trees shimmered like glass and the ground pulsed with a faint blue light. "It is a place where we test not only strength, but wisdom," she had said. "You may learn more than you expect." As they walked through the glowing forest, Kale could feel the air vibrate around him. Every step he took caused faint ripples of light to spread across the moss-like floor. Strange creatures darted between the trees, small, curious beings that seemed to watch them with glowing eyes. Kale moved slowly, careful not to disturb the delicate ecosystem. Lyra spoke softly as they walked. "Our people have long studied the balance of life, Kale. Every creature, every plant, every element of Zythera is connected. To survive here, you must understand the whole, not just the part you touch." Kale nodded. He thought of Earth, where humans often acted without understanding the consequences. "On Earth, we sometimes forget the connections," he admitted. "We act quickly, and only later see the results." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is why you humans are both fascinating and frightening. You can create incredible things, but you can also destroy. The courage to face danger without knowing the outcome is admirable, but it must be guided by wisdom." They reached a clearing where the trees formed a perfect circle around a small pool of water that reflected the violet sky above. Lyra turned to Kale. "This is a place of learning," she said. "Here, we test the mind, the heart, and the spirit." Before Kale could ask what she meant, the water's surface began to shimmer, and images appeared, scenes from both Zytherian history and what Kale assumed were lessons. There were visions of battles, of leaders making difficult choices, and of ordinary Zytherians performing acts of courage. Kale realized that this was not just a visual display. He could feel the emotions, the fear, the hope, and the determination of those long past. Lyra's hand hovered over the water. "Look closely, Kale. These are not just memories. They are lessons. What would you have done differently? What choices would you make?" Kale studied the scenes carefully. He saw a young Zytherian leader facing an invading force. Instead of attacking immediately, the leader had waited, studied the enemy, and then found a way to turn the situation into a victory without unnecessary loss. Kale realized how different this was from typical human strategy, which often valued speed and force over patience and precision. "I would have acted too quickly," Kale admitted. "I would have rushed in, trying to defeat them before thinking. I see now that waiting, understanding, and finding the right moment can save more lives than brute force ever could." Lyra nodded approvingly. "Wisdom is knowing when to act and when to wait. Courage without understanding can become reckless. You are learning quickly, Kale. Not just about our ways, but about your own nature as well." They spent hours in the Crystal Forest, moving from one glowing pool to another, each showing a different lesson. Kale began to understand that Zytherians measured strength not only by physical ability, but by wisdom, patience, and empathy. He realized that this was the reason Lyra had been impressed by him during the first attack they had seen, the way he protected others, even without knowing the full consequences. As night fell, the forest glowed brighter, and Kale felt a sense of calm he had never experienced on Earth. Lyra sat beside him on a crystalline rock, her eyes reflecting the soft lights around them. "Kale," she said after a pause, "you have already done something few humans could. You have earned the trust of some of my people. That is no small feat." Kale looked at her, feeling both pride and humility. "I only did what I thought was right. I did not expect recognition. Recognition is not the same as trust," Lyra replied. "You have shown that humanity has the ability to act with honor, even when it is not required. That is rare. Even among Zitharians." Kale smiled faintly. "Thank you. It is meaningful to hear that from you." Over the next few days, Kale continued his exploration, often accompanied by Lyra. They visited ancient Zitharian ruins, where Kale learned about the history of the planet, the trials of its people, and the importance of harmony between strength and wisdom. He was fascinated by how Zitharians had survived countless challenges, from natural disasters to interstellar conflicts, all while maintaining their values and culture. Lyra often challenged Kale with tasks designed to test his adaptability. She would set up simulations of potential threats, asking him how he would respond. Kale realized that these were not simple tests of combat, but of character. He had to think not only about immediate danger, but about the consequences of each decision. One day, Lyra led him to a high platform overlooking the city. "Observe," she said. Below them, Zitharians went about their daily routines. Some were working with technology that Kale could barely understand, while others tended to gardens that floated in mid-air. Even in the simplest activities, there was an elegance and efficiency that humans rarely achieved. "Your people have so much potential," Lyra said softly. "Yet you often act without thinking. Here, every action matters. Every choice affects not just you, but the whole." Kale thought about humanity's mistakes on Earth, the wars, the environmental destruction, the divisions. "We have much to learn," he admitted, "but I believe we can grow, if we choose to." Lyra studied him carefully. "Perhaps that is why I am drawn to you. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to learn, to change, and to act with your heart. That is rare." As they returned to the city, Kale noticed the respect Lyra commanded. Even the elders who had been skeptical of humans watched her closely when she spoke with him. Her confidence in him seemed to influence them, slowly building bridges between human and Zitharian understanding. One evening, while practicing tactical exercises in a training hall, Kale and Lyra encountered resistance from a group of Zitharian elders. They questioned Kale's presence and the humans' intentions. Kale stood firm, speaking honestly about humanity's desire for peace and cooperation. "I am here not to conquer, not to take, but to learn and to help," Kale said. "And I hope that my actions will show you that humanity can be trusted." The elders studied him carefully, then nodded slowly. Lyra stepped forward. "He has already shown courage, wisdom, and honor. That is more than most outsiders demonstrate. I trust him, and I ask that you consider doing the same." "I munderses here. I munderses heerd. All the work self. I munderses here. Alderses here. I munderses here. I munderses here. I munderses here." By the end of the evening, Kale had earned the tentative approval of the elders. It was a small victory, but significant. He realized that trust, once gained, could change entire perspectives. Humanity was proving its worth not through words, but through deeds. As days turned into weeks, Kale and Lyra grew closer. Their discussions ranged from strategy to philosophy, from human culture to Zitharian history. They learned from each other, not just about the world, but about the kind of beings they aspired to be. Kale admired Lyra's wisdom, courage, and grace, while Lyra admired Kale's resilience, honesty, and heart. One afternoon, while walking along a river that glowed with liquid light, Kale noticed Lyra pausing to watch the water's surface. "What do you see?" he asked. "Possibilities," she replied. "Every choice, every action creates ripples. Just as the river moves, life moves. Your actions affect more than you know. That is why I observe you. Kale, you are learning how to navigate these ripples with care and courage. Kale looked at the river, then back at her. I hope I can continue to learn. I do not want to fail you or your people. Lyra smiled, a warmth in her gaze that Kale could not ignore. You will not fail. You are already showing what it means to be human in the best way. Courage, empathy, wisdom. These are the qualities that define greatness, no matter the species. As night fell, the city shimmered under the twin moons, and Kale felt a sense of belonging he had not expected. He was far from Earth, surrounded by beings whose abilities surpassed his own, yet he felt respected, needed, and seen. The bond between him and Lyra grew stronger each day, founded on mutual respect, trust, and admiration. Kale understood now that his journey was not just about diplomacy or survival. It was about showing what humanity could be, a species capable of courage, honor, and wisdom, even when faced with the unknown. And as he looked at Lyra, standing beside him under the glowing sky, he realized that this was only the beginning of a remarkable partnership, one that could shape the future of both their worlds. Kale had grown accustomed to life on Zythera, yet he knew peace was fragile. For weeks, he and Lyra had been exploring the planet, learning about its culture, history, and unique energy systems. They had bonded through shared lessons and mutual respect, but the world around them was not without danger. Reports from the outer regions of Zythera warned of a massive alien fleet approaching the planet. These were not ordinary travelers. They were a known interstellar force, capable of overwhelming even the strongest civilizations. The Council of Elders gathered in the central chamber, their forms reflecting the glowing light of the city's energy core. Lyra stood beside Kale as the elders debated defensive strategies. Some suggested retreating to the inner sanctum of the city, while others proposed evacuating civilians to safe zones beyond the atmosphere. Kale listened carefully, offering suggestions based on human tactics. We should not underestimate the enemy, Kale said firmly. Evacuation alone is not enough. We must combine your technology with human strategy. Defensive positions must be coordinated, and we need to use the terrain to our advantage. If we can channel their forces into controlled zones, we can minimize casualties and maximize efficiency. The elders exchanged glances. Kale's suggestions were unconventional for Zytherian thought, but his reasoning was clear. Lyra nodded in agreement. He is correct, she said. Human strategy has value. We will work together. Preparation began immediately. Kale supervised the fortification of critical zones, integrating Zytherian energy shields with human tactical positioning. The floating bridges and towers were reinforced, and civilians were trained to take cover and assist with minor defensive measures. Kale was impressed by the Zytherians' speed and adaptability. They absorbed his instructions quickly, and their technology made his human methods far more effective. When the alien fleet appeared in the skies, Kale felt a surge of tension. Hundreds of ships, larger than any he had ever seen, hovered ominously above the planet. Their design was alien even by human standards, dark, angular, and bristling with weapons. Yet Kale was not afraid. He had trained for battles before, but never alongside a species as capable as the Zytherians. Lyra stood beside him on a high platform overlooking the city. Her presence was steadying. Kale, she said, remember that strength is not only in power, it is in courage, unity, and understanding. We will face them together. Kale nodded. Together, he repeated. The battle began at dawn. Alien ships swooped down, firing energy beams that lit the sky like lightning. Zytherian shields absorbed some attacks, but the sheer number of enemies made the situation critical. Kale coordinated human and Zytherian forces, directing energy flows and tactical movements. His knowledge of human military strategy allowed the defenders to anticipate enemy patterns, while Zytherian abilities provided unmatched speed and precision. Kale saw civilians trapped on a lower level as one of the alien ships fired a barrage. Without hesitation, he sprinted down, using his portable shield device to protect them. Lyra followed, creating a barrier that lifted debris and redirected energy blasts. Together, they guided the civilians to safety. Kale's heart pounded, but he felt a strange confidence. He was not just a soldier. He was part of a partnership that combined the best of two species. As the battle raged, Kale noticed a group of alien commanders coordinating attacks on the city's energy core. If the core were destroyed, the floating city would collapse. Kale signaled Lyra, and she understood instantly. They moved swiftly toward the core, dodging energy blasts and debris. Kale deployed a series of human-designed traps, while Lyra manipulated the energy around them to shield and redirect attacks. At the core, the alien commanders launched their final assault. Kale realized that conventional defense would not be enough. He had to take a calculated risk. Using himself as bait, he drew the attackers into a trap that Lyra had prepared. Her precise energy manipulation, combined with his tactical positioning, allowed them to neutralize the threat, saving the core and the city. When the smoke cleared, Kale and Lyra stood together on a platform high above the city, overlooking the aftermath. Zitherians emerged cautiously, their movements careful but relieved. The elders approached, expressions of respect and gratitude evident on their faces. "You have proven yourselves today," one elder said. "Both of you. Kale of Earth. Your courage and wisdom have saved Zythera." Lyra turned to Kale, her eyes glowing softly. "You were fearless. Not because you lacked fear, but because you acted for what was right. That is something we value more than strength alone." Kale shook his head modestly. "I could not have done it without you, Lyra. You were incredible, your control, your understanding of your world. It was unlike anything I have seen." Lyra smiled faintly. "Perhaps we were meant to face this together. Humans and Zitherians, side by side. Perhaps there is more we can accomplish than we ever imagined." Over the next few days, the city began repairs. Kale helped wherever he could, showing humans' ability to adapt and assist. He trained Zitherian defenders in human tactical methods, while learning more about Zitherian energy manipulation. The two species worked seamlessly, their combined efforts far exceeding what either could achieve alone. During this time, Kale and Lyra grew closer. The danger had forged a bond stronger than words could describe. They shared quiet moments, reflecting on the battle and what it had taught them. Kale admired Lyra's unwavering commitment to her people and her clarity of thought. Lyra admired Kale's bravery, adaptability, and selflessness. Both realized that their partnership was more than professional. It was personal, founded on trust, respect, and shared experiences that neither would forget. One evening, while walking along a reconstructed floating bridge, Lyra turned to Kale. "You have changed how my people see humans," she said softly. "You have shown that courage and wisdom are not limited to one species. That is remarkable." Kale looked at her, feeling a warmth that went beyond admiration. "I only acted as any human should when faced with a chance to help. I am glad it mattered." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the twin moons above. "It mattered more than you know. And it mattered to me, Kale. I am glad you are here." The city was quiet that night. The only sounds the gentle hum of energy flows and the occasional ripple of floating water gardens. Kale felt a sense of calm he had rarely experienced. Despite the battle, despite the danger, he felt connected to the city, to the people, and to Lyra. He realized that the events of the past days had not just been about survival. They had been about understanding, trust, and the potential for two very different species to work as one. As they stood together, overlooking the city, Kale knew that the trials of the battle had prepared them for the challenges ahead. The alien fleet might return, and other threats could come. But he felt confident that together, humans and Zitherians could face anything. The battle had proven it. Lyra's hand brushed against his arm, a simple touch that carried a weight of unspoken meaning. Kale met her gaze and felt a connection stronger than any he had known. There was trust, respect, and perhaps something more. In that moment, He understood that their bond was not just about the past or the present, it was about the future, one they could shape together. As night deepened, Kale and Lyra walked back toward the city's central platform. The repaired towers gleamed softly in the moonlight, and the air carried the scent of renewal and hope. Kale reflected on the journey, from his first landing to the battle that had tested every skill and lesson he had learned. He had grown not just as a warrior, but as a representative of humanity. He had shown that humans were capable of courage, wisdom, and compassion in ways that could inspire even the most advanced civilizations. Lyra's voice broke his thoughts. "Kale, there is more to come," she said, her tone calm but firm. "You have proven yourself in battle, but the heart of Zythera is not in fighting alone. You will need to understand our ways, our hopes, and perhaps even our hearts." Kale nodded. "I am ready," he said. "I want to learn everything I can, not just for myself, but for both our peoples." Lyra looked at him, her gaze softening. "Then you are truly exceptional, Kale of Earth. Your courage, your heart, and your willingness to learn. These are qualities that define greatness." As they entered the city, the glow of Zythera's energy reflecting in their eyes, Kale felt a sense of purpose and connection stronger than ever. He had faced danger, earned trust, and begun to form bonds that could last a lifetime. And as he walked beside Lyra, he realized that the story of humans on Zythera was just beginning. Together, they had the chance to change the course of history, not through domination, but through courage, wisdom, and unity. The stars above shone brighter than ever, as if acknowledging the partnership that had formed below. Kale knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them not alone, but with Lyra and her people. The battle had been won, but the real journey, the journey of understanding, trust, and perhaps love was only beginning, and Kale felt ready for it. The battle over Zythera had ended, but the aftermath was still being felt. The floating city had sustained damage, yet the combined efforts of humans and Zytherians had preserved its core and saved countless lives. Kale moved through the city, helping wherever he could, though he knew that no task was too small to matter. Each repair, each reassurance to the citizens, was a reminder of the bond that had formed between their worlds. Lyra approached him as he worked, her expression serene yet thoughtful. "Kale, come with me," she said. Without waiting for a reply, she led him to a quiet platform above the central city, one of the highest points in the floating towers. The night sky stretched endlessly above, stars twinkling in a way that felt almost alive. Below them, the city pulsed softly with energy, its repairs already well underway. Kale followed, his curiosity piqued. "Where are we going?" he asked. Lyra smiled faintly. "To a place of reflection, a place where the future can be imagined." When they reached the platform, Lyra gestured for Kale to look at the horizon. Beyond the city, Zythera's forests and rivers shimmered under the twin moons. The scene was breathtaking, and Kale could feel the weight of everything that had happened. The battle, the trust gained, the bond formed between human and Zytherian. "You have done more than I could have imagined, Kale," Lyra said softly. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and honor. You have not only earned the trust of my people, but you have changed how we see humanity." Kale felt a warmth in his chest, though he tried to hide it behind modesty. "I only did what I could. I never expected praise or recognition. I only wanted to help." Lyra's gaze softened, and she stepped closer. Her hand reached out, gently brushing against his arm. The touch was simple, yet it carried weight, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had been through together. "Kale," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I have watched you from the moment you set foot on Zythera. I have seen your courage, your kindness, your determination, and I have seen the heart of humanity reflected in you." Kale looked at her, surprised by the intensity of her words. "Lyra, he faltered, unsure what to say. Lyra took a deep breath and touched his hand fully. Her skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight. "Kale of Earth, will you wed me?" The question hung in the air, simple yet profound. Kale's mind raced. He thought of the journey that had brought him here, the first landing, the battle against the creature, the weeks of learning Zitherian ways, the fight to protect the city, and the countless moments where trust and understanding had grown between them. He thought of Lyra herself, her wisdom, her courage, and her unwavering commitment to her people. "Yes," he said finally, his voice firm and filled with certainty. "Yes, Lyra, I will." Lyra's eyes sparkled, and she smiled, a mixture of relief and joy. Around them, the city seemed to shimmer brighter, as if acknowledging the bond that had been formed. Citizens and elders alike paused to witness the moment, understanding that it was more than a union of two beings. It was a symbol of the unity between human and Zitherian. Preparations for the ceremony began immediately. It was unlike any wedding Kale had ever imagined. Human customs were blended with Zitherian traditions in a celebration that honored both species. The city's energy flowed in harmony with the event, illuminating the towers, bridges, and floating gardens in a mesmerizing display. Kale found himself amazed at the precision and elegance of Zitherian ceremonial practices. Every movement, every gesture had meaning, and yet there was room for spontaneity and emotion. Lyra led him through the rituals with patience, explaining each step, and Kale followed, eager to honor her people while remaining true to his own. The elders gave blessings, not just for the couple, but for the future of both their species. Kale felt a deep sense of responsibility. This union was more than personal. It was a symbol of trust, respect, and cooperation between worlds. He understood that the actions they had taken together, the battles fought, and the lessons learned, had culminated in this moment. During the ceremony, Lyra and Kale exchanged words of commitment, not only to each other, but to the ideals they represented. They vowed to protect, respect, and learn from one another, ensuring that the bond between human and Zitherian would strengthen and inspire future generations. After the formalities, the celebration turned to joy and festivity. Humans and Zitherians danced together, their movements blending seamlessly despite their differences. Music filled the air, a combination of human instruments and Zitherian harmonic energy, creating melodies that Kale had never imagined. Laughter, light, and warmth spread throughout the city, marking the start of a new era. Kale and Lyra took a moment alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The stars above reflected their emotions, bright, endless, and full of promise. Lyra leaned slightly against him, and he felt a sense of completeness he had never known. "You have changed my world, Kale," she said softly. "Not just through courage in battle, but through your heart." "Humanity is more than I imagined," Kale smiled, feeling both humility and pride. "And you have changed mine, Lyra. You've shown me what wisdom, courage, and unity truly mean. Together, I believe we can face any challenge." Lyra nodded, resting her head slightly against his shoulder. "Together," she agreed. The next days were filled with planning and preparation for the future. Kale worked with the Zitherians to integrate human ideas with their advanced technology. He shared strategies, problem-solving methods, and approaches to leadership that Zitherians had not previously considered. In turn, Lyra taught him about energy manipulation, philosophy, and the delicate balance of their world. Their collaboration was seamless, proof that two species could learn from each other while respecting their differences. The bond between Kale and Lyra continued to grow, deepening with every shared experience. They traveled together to distant parts of Zythera, studying ancient ruins, observing wildlife, and assisting in the reconstruction of areas damaged during the battle. Everywhere they went, their presence inspired both humans and Zitherians to work together, fostering trust, admiration, and mutual respect. One evening, while standing on a cliff overlooking a river of glowing water, Lyra spoke softly. "Kale, the future of our worlds is not in conquest or dominance, but in understanding, courage, and unity. You have shown that humans are capable of greatness in ways I had not imagined." Kale looked out at the river, reflecting on everything that had happened. "I believe that too, Lyra. If we continue to work together, to trust and respect one another, humanity can become a force for hope, not just on Earth, but across the stars. Lyra smiled, a quiet warmth in her eyes. Then we will shape the future together. Not as two individuals, but as a bridge between our peoples. Your courage, Kael, and your heart have made this possible. The city below shimmered as if in agreement. The human and Zetherian forces had already begun collaborative projects to ensure the safety, prosperity, and harmony of both species. Children learned about each other's cultures. Scientists shared knowledge freely. And leaders developed councils that included representatives from both worlds. Kael and Lyra often reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from the first landing, through the creature attack, the exploration of Zythera, the battle against the alien fleet, and finally to the moment of their union. They had grown together and learned from each other. Each trial had strengthened their bond and deepened their understanding of what it meant to be truly courageous and honorable. The final day of celebrations arrived. Citizens from across the floating city gathered to witness the unity of human and Zetherian culture. Lyra and Kael stood at the central platform, hands intertwined, facing the crowd. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. "You have seen our journey," Lyra said, addressing both species, "and you have witnessed what courage, wisdom, and trust can accomplish. Today, we honor not only our bond, but the potential of our peoples to work together, learn from each other, and face any challenge with honor and heart." Kael stepped forward. "We stand together, not as separate species, but as allies, friends, and partners. The strength of humanity is not only in our actions, but in our ability to care, to learn, and to grow. May this be a beginning of hope for both our worlds." The crowd erupted in celebration. Humans and Zetherians cheered, their voices blending in a chorus of joy and unity. The city seemed to glow brighter than ever, reflecting the hope and optimism of its inhabitants. As the night deepened, Kael and Lyra stood together, gazing at the stars. The twin moons reflected in their eyes, and the floating city shimmered below like a jewel. They had faced danger, earned trust, and forged a bond that would shape the future of their worlds. Kael took Lyra's hand and held it firmly. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we will face it together." Lyra smiled, leaning slightly against him. "Together," she agreed, and beneath the endless stars, two hearts, one human, one Zetherian, stood united, ready to face the future. Their story was not just one of love or courage, but of hope, respect, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. In the end, it was clear. The heart of humanity, when combined with wisdom and unity, could shine brighter than any star. And so, Kael and Lyra began a new chapter not only for themselves, but for the future of Zythera and Earth, side by side, united by courage, honor, and heart.